Hi, Nigel here with the Drivewire, and this looks very much like a Lexus IS350 F Sport, but it isn't. In fact, what it is a very rare car indeed. This is the Lexus IS500 F Sport Performance, something we've been waiting a very long time for since the ISF came along in 2008. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not, and Lexus quotes this, a replacement for the ISF. It's kind of hard to tell that it is in fact an IS500, except for the IS500 badge right here, and these super cool quad tailpipes, very much ISF-like, and blink and you'll miss it, this 2-inch hood add-on that helps make the very nice engine underneath here fit in here. We'll go into that in a few details. The other thing that Lexus had to do is extend the front from here out a little bit to make room for some expanded radiators, etc. And what I do like about this car is there's no dorky badging, massive rear spoilers, front splitters, etc. It just looks very much like a sleeper car. So what's super special about this car is the engine. This is the naturally aspirated V8. It's a 5-liter, comes straight from the ISF, used to be in the GSF, it's used in the RCF, it's used in the LC500. It is a magnificent engine. It packs 495 horsepower, 395 foot-pounds of torque. Torque kicks in around 4,800 RPM, quite high. It's made it to an 8-speed transmission. The engine revs up to about 7,100 RPM. It is an absolute screamer. And given a solid launch, obviously it's rear-wheel drive, it goes from 0 to 60 in around 4.4 seconds. So let's not compare this with the M3. It simply is not an M3 beater. The cars that it competes directly with are the Audi S5, the Cadillac CT5V, and of course the BMW M340i, which all pack 6-cylinder or twin or single turbo 6-cylinder engines with less power, but equally more torque. So it's on a par with those cars. This car comes in around $61,000, and so I think it's a pretty good competitor to those three. If you want a free-breathing, naturally aspirated V8 engine in a 4-door sedan, you only have two choices. This car, and can anyone guess what the other one is? Yep, it's the Dodge Charger, either with the regular Hemi or the Scatback. So room in the back is pretty tight, not much headroom, not much leg room. The seats are actually very nice. Then you get a little armrest here, and then there's a couple of cup holders here. Bit precarious when you're doing high-speed turns. Suggest not taking any passengers at all in this car. It's meant for the driver only. So anyway, you get a little bit of AC, no power. Nobody really cares about the backseat passengers for a car like this. With all Lexus IS models, you get around 11 cubic feet of space. Lexus sent this car with a cover. I haven't used it yet, which is why it's soaking wet, but anyway. Under here you get a space saver tire. So not much change when they revamped the interior of the IS. It was more of a refresh than anything else. Everything is pretty much the same. These seats are super comfortable. They're soft, they're supportive. You get power for both sides. Everything else is pretty much standard Lexus. There's a little bit of cubby space in here with a couple of USBs and some 12-volt. The notorious trackpad, a couple of cup holders right here. And then really the only important part is this button right here, which gives you Eco, Normal, Sport, and Sport Plus, which is the place I spend most of my time in. So it has rained a little bit, and so I could describe the road as being slightly damp, but we can drive it anyway. Let's turn the button to Sport S, and off we go. The first thing that you do notice versus an RCF, now the last RCF I drove was the Fuji edition. That thing is hunkered down. I love that car. This one rides in the modes, even if it's Sport Plus, it rides softer. Had a chance to drive it a little bit previously to making this video, and it does tend to roll a little more in the corners than you would have expected. But now I've got used to it, and I actually kind of like it. particularly as the roads here in Southern California are crap, full of potholes and just badly maintained. So it sort of helps you out. And just driving around town, it's actually very smooth, very comfortable. It's very what you'd expect to be very Lexus-like. So I like that fact. Floor it from a stop. 60. I can well believe that 4.4 seconds is doable. And it hooks up really well. If you take the traction control off, yeah, it spins its rear wheels into oblivion. And as I said earlier, I really wish it had Michelin Pilot Sports. If I bought one, and I strongly encourage anybody that's looking for something like this to buy one of these cars, would be to get the Pilot Sports. Plus, it sounds magnificent. There's a little gate that opens in the exhaust above 2800 RPM, and this thing just sings. Love it. So what don't I like? Well, there are a couple of things. I've got used to the slightly softer suspension, the fact that it does roll. I'm not too keen on the brakes. They're a little squishy. They work really well, but the pedal itself, the feel is of a car that maybe isn't going to stop. That's never a good feeling for brakes, particularly on a performance vehicle like this. I've got used to it, but it was slightly unnerving at first. So we'll get on to some quicker roads here, exercising just a tad of caution because it's still a little bit damp under tire. There's something anachronistic, there's something old school about this thing. And when you mash that throttle, the whole display just goes orange, like it's angry, like it wants to go. So we'll head out on this little bit of 2-lane road here, and we'll see what we think. All right, so we hit the 2-lane road. That's such a good noise. It's pretty good in the turns. And even though it does roll a little bit, it doesn't feel floaty. It feels pretty well clamped to the road. And the more I drive this fast, the more I love it. When I first drove it, the first time I drove it around town, I was like, ah, this is annoying. But I mean, yeah, you can get up to ridiculous speeds pretty fast in this car. Puts a big smile on your face. I haven't driven one of these on the track, but I can imagine it's a hoot to drive. Just exercising a little bit of caution because we had some thunderstorms yesterday, and the road is a little damp in places where you don't want it to be damp, i.e. in the turns. We've come up behind someone, so we've had to drive a little slower, but just driving around at this speed, it's very, very comfortable. You feel like you're getting your teeth shaken out. It rides nicely. There's not too much road noise from these tires. It's sort of the best of both worlds, you know? You could quite easily go pick up your granny and take it to bingo, and then drive onto some fast country roads and tear around like a hooligan. So easily passed slower vehicles. I love this car. There's something about a rear-wheel drive car with a big V8 in it that you just got to exercise caution. Everything's going all-wheel drive. Everything has a bunch of safety features on it. This one, yeah, it's got a limited slip diff at the back, which helps with traction. It's got some traction control features to stop you completely making a total ass of yourself. But that doesn't stop you from ending up backwards in a ditch. Oh, absolutely glorious sound. over here and do a switcheroo here. We're gonna turn around real quick. Unfortunately, it's scheduled for sort of scattered rain all week, so I'm not gonna get a chance to really go balls out in this thing, but it's a fun car. When you drive it like your pants are on fire, you don't get very good fuel economy, which is not a surprise to everyone. I'm averaging, let's see, 9.5 miles to the gallon. Sometimes we play this game where we see if we can get the worst possible fuel economy. The current champion is got to be the Dodge Ram TRX. I think that was like 7.5 or 6. So we're not going to get that bad in this because it's a smaller, lighter, just under 4,000 pound 4-door sedan. But 9.5, that's pretty good. Bad. And this thing is a joy. I'm sure if I drove it in eco mode, it would get better fuel economy, but why the hell's the fun in that? They're not quite for sale yet. If you go on Lexus's website, yeah, I think you can get information about it, but they haven't hit dealerships yet. All right, let's see if we can pass this quite slow Dodge Journey. Here we go. I'm not sure if there's a limited run of these or not. I think there may well be. I think somewhere I read that maybe they were making 500 of them available, but I'm not too sure. Now, what would be really interesting if they kept this V8 as is in this car, and then they did a special edition and made a Fuji version of this, just tightened up the steering a little bit more brake feel on the pedal, and maybe made it roll a little less in the corners. It doesn't need to, because I think it's fine as is, but it'd be great if they had a Fuji edition of this. All right, well, another great test drive. Appreciate you watching. Please subscribe, like. Let me know if you want to put this one on your list. Is it better than an S5? Is it better than an M340i? Is it better than a Cadillac CT5V? In my opinion, because it has this glorious, naturally aspirated V8 under the hood, I say yes. Thanks for watching.